Cystine Complete Lubricant Eye Drops from the #1 dry eye brand in Australia. Cystine Complete, Alcon's most advanced choice for dry eye. Feel the difference. Cystine Complete Eye Drops. Always read the label. Use only as directed. If symptoms persist, see your healthcare professional.
I'm Dr. Theo Spirakis from Bexley Dental, and I can give you back your smile. With the All-on-4 dental procedure, I can put an end to broken and missing teeth and uncomfortable dentures. Book your free All-on-4 consultation now at bexleydental.com.au.
The Informed Investor, thanks to Century 21. Smarter, bolder, faster. Go to century21.com.au.
Nobody knows more about real estate than the chairman of Century 21, Charles Tarby, who's on the line as he is each Monday night at this time. Charles, great to talk to you again.
Thank you very much, Steve.
Increasingly seeing people, when the auction market starts to go south a little bit, deciding to, if they're selling their property, putting up on the sale board and in the advertising expressions of interest. Why would someone do that?
Yeah, I think there's another way too. What we term ours as express sale. We've been doing that for quite some time. It sort of gives the seller an indication of what people are prepared to pay, and quite often, after a short period of time, some sellers decide actually not to sell. So it's a way of finding out whether or not they're going to get anywhere near a price that might help them make their next move, or whether they just decide to stay put and sometimes renovate. So we're seeing a fair bit more of that now, especially with the auction clearance rates. Even though they have been sitting now around the 50s, it was 50.2% this week, and that's still reasonable. But a lot of people are getting a bit frightened, and so they're just hedging their bets a little bit and checking out what the market might be like beforehand. Obviously,
So if you
expressions of interest, people will make an offer in writing, and then the seller can just walk away at that point in time.
So I guess the advantage would be if you don't go to auction, because if you do go to auction and the market is, going backwards a little bit at the moment, and you get to sale day and the property's passed in, you've then set yourself, you've backed yourself into a corner on what the price of the property is going to be, haven't you?
Yeah, you're negotiating. Look, there are 3 stages of an auction in terms of a sale. Often it can sell beforehand, on the day, or after. And sometimes the sellers need educating about the market too, Steve. So after an auction, often the buyers have done their homework and they'll sit tight, and the seller may have wanted too much. But here's another point that's really fascinating, is that your capital city, your home, Adelaide, hit 67.9% in clearance rates in auctions, which was higher by over 5 points than this time last year. So you've got all these different marketplaces still going on. The report came out today that indicated that regional areas, while everybody's talking about the market crashing, and we are certainly seeing a change, in this last year, we've had a significant number of regional areas that have had positive growth year to date.
Well, you look at last night's episode of The Block, 2 million people watched it. That's, you know the business better than anyone. People love real estate. They love looking at what a place is going to bring. All of those places sold. A couple of them, the penthouses up to nearly 3 million. Yeah. So the market can't be in too bad a shape.
It can't be, especially when you've got that budget for advertising the property to go to auction. It's obviously very, very unique when you've got millions of dollars being spent promoting the property you're going to put up. And it was a very interesting test of auctioneering skills too. There was a little bit of anxiety in there, and there's quite a bit of social media activity around, more so not the price, but the auctioneers on the night.
Do you like auctioning places?
I would. There are certain properties I would never sell any other way but auction. I do think that auction is a specialised area. I mean, when you're in a boom time and there's a lot of buyers around and a little bit of stock, you put your property to auction. But in the main marketplace where real estate is just normal, I wouldn't put my property to auction if there are 10 other homes for sale in the area of similar character. I'm just going to be spending a lot of money and a lot of time and a lot of angst. But there are marketplaces in the country right now still where there's a shortage of stock and properties are going to auction. My daughter's about to, she's put a property on the market, and she asked me how. I said, in your area auction, because I drove through the area and I couldn't see too many for sale signs. So I don't think she's going to have a lot of competition, meaning that there are going to be more buyers than there are sellers.
Got to do your homework. Tasmania, we often look south, and I think many of us who might be thinking about downsizing or retiring look at those properties down there and go, wow, what a bargain that is. Well, it's fallen back a bit again, so you might even be able to pick up something even cheaper in Tassie.
Yeah, Tassie went really quite crazy, as you know, even in rentals. It had the biggest climb in terms of rental growth than any other capital city in the last couple of years, over 27% increase in rental income when other capital cities like Sydney were sitting in the low threes. So, and coupled with the fact that people out of Melbourne and other parts of the country, for that matter, gained a significant amount of equity that they were able to use, Adelaide looked incredibly cheap. So, of course, it was one of those places where there were far too many buyers for the amount of property that came out of the ground. But we're now starting to see that turn because, again, that's not something that you didn't speak about with me some time ago, about the fact that what happens when all these properties come up and they're all investors, who's going to actually rent these properties? And so I think there's going to come a turn in the rental market there too. We're going to see a reasonable decline in that area. And I think that you only need a slight increase in interest rates. And if people haven't adjusted themselves effectively and they have a little bit of vacancy plus increased interest rates, then the prices in that area are going to be even lower.
Talking to Charles Tarbey from Century 21, UBS have put out a report saying a lot of these capital city apartments now being resold at a loss. That wouldn't surprise you.
No. It's something we flagged 2 years ago. But, it's really interesting. You try your best to explain to people that there comes a time, and nobody predicted the Royal Commission into banking, which has really given it far more negative impact. And coupled with that, overseas markets, the Asian market dried up because the governments there stopped the flow of people taking their money out of the country. And so I think we've still got a lot more to go in that arena. Queensland was one of the areas we picked, particularly in the West End area, as one of those spots that we could see a lot of apartments coming up for sale. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to win my bet on getting a two-bedroom apartment for under $400,000 in that area. So I see those areas as good news in a strange way because those people that couldn't buy are now finding themselves in a position where they can buy.
Exactly right. Thank you very much, Charles. I'll talk to you next week. Always a pleasure.
Thank you, Steve.
Charles Tarbey there, the chairman of Century 21. And you just watch that capital city apartment market because there'll be a lot of places that were purchased off the plan. And when they're built, people are just not going to turn up and pay the price that they put their name to.